Hello once again and welcome to a nearly wet but windy Vauxhall Railway Station. So I've been through here many times from Waterloo and Clapham Junction, but now's the time to come here and give it an episode of its own. So nonetheless, let's get cracking and welcome once again to Down the Line.
This train has 8 carriages.
So Vauxhall was opened in 1848 and altogether it has 10 platforms. However, they are separated as 8 belonging to the National Rail and 2 for London Underground. Now it is managed by South Western Railway, and in terms of where you can go from here, well, Waterloo, which is the terminus. You've then got Clapham Junction just down the way, on towards Reading, Portsmouth, Weymouth, Chessington, all sorts of places along the network. That train's very noisy, but nonetheless, like I said, I've been here, through here quite a few times, and I've always wondered what it'd be like to just be here as a enthusiast and a train spotter, and here I am. But so far, I've been here for what, 5 minutes, and already I've counted about 11 services that have either stopped or been through here, so there's plenty to see. It's not been very often that I have managed to see the South Western Railway side of things, but coming to a station like Vauxhall and being just outside of Clapham Junction and Waterloo, this is the ideal spot to see plenty in a very short time space. So when Vauxhall opened, it was actually opened as Vauxhall Bridge, and then in 1856 it was actually rebuilt after there was a large fire here. If you fast forward 120 so years, that is when in 1971 the Victoria Line underground platforms were built and opened here, and it was actually the first post-war underground project that was started in central London, obviously post-war. And I find that quite fascinating, to be fair. That's quite a gap between 1945 and 1971, so I'm just wondering, there must have been something else in other parts of London, however, but certainly for central London, Vauxhall was the first project. That's quite interesting, to be fair. It didn't take too long at all to come from London Euston along the Victoria Line, with only 5 stops in between. And I did find it quite odd that you have to go through separate buildings to go from Underground to National Rail. So in the early 20th century, Vauxhall was actually a significant stop for delivering milk from around the country into London. And there was a regular milk train from Torrington. Now, for those of you who may have seen it, there is a DVD or VHS called Diesel and Electric on 35mm, narrated by John Huntley. Now, if you have seen that, this is why I can picture that scene, because there's a certain few shots where it shows a Waterloo bound service coming through Vauxhall, and all that there was on this platform in the middle was milk churns and trolleys, everything like that. It was stacked with milk, so I can just believe the extent that was coming here to be delivered across the city. Now, you can just imagine with the population increase that there has been in London, especially since, the 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. How much more would they have needed then? Now, sorry. And it's quite a contrast, You would never be able to probably have services like that anymore, purely because cost and the extent of the milk that they would need just to cover the population of London nowadays, it's quite vast. But there's definitely some history here, that's for sure, and it's nice to actually have that, that image that I remember from a railway DVD, which obviously brings it into perspective, and I can actually picture it, so it's nice all the same. Clapham Junction was also a station used to drop off milk by the milk train, of course, and I suppose back then the scenery was a lot different and it wasn't as dominated by the towers and skyscrapers that you see today. What changes that we've had over the last 50 years? So when this station opened upon leaving Waterloo, there was no way for the guard or ticket inspector to walk completely through the train. So what would happen is the train would actually stop at Vauxhall, and the guard would make his way along the train, and it would not move until all ticket inspections had been completed. Now, you can just imagine if you're trying to get anywhere, that would be quite a lengthy process. So thank God, someone designed trains where you can walk all the way through, making it easier for passengers and the ticket inspector. So it's a win-win for both, I suppose, isn't it? It does make me think that if I was a passenger back then, would the time have been factored in into the next arrival time at the next station? Or you can imagine if you didn't have your ticket, then that would have caused considerable delay for the conductor back then. How times have changed for the better. Now, one thing I've always loved about Vauxhall Station, and especially since being here, standing on the platforms, is that it is surrounded with extremely tall buildings. Not only that, you've got the City Line. I'm going to turn around actually. You've got the City Line behind me, where you've got Canary Wharf. You've then got the Shard, which is where London Bridge Station is, and you won't be able to see it, but just through a few buildings you can just make out the site of Big Ben. So it's more than just a railway station, this, and I feel like if you've got your binoculars you can probably make out a few more of the buildings, but I really do enjoy being here. I really do. So it's nice to finally be stood on the platforms. I have to say, this is a very scenic station, and if you remember on my Vectis Venturer tour, then with the side doors it gave you a side view of the line ahead, and I have to say that view was simply incredible. But the next station has an even better one. So as fun as it has been being here, the weather is starting to edge to the bad side. It's getting quite grey and the rain is starting to spit down, so I don't particularly want to get soaked. I've done my hair. But nonetheless, it's been great being here. So now that is my cue to head back onto the Underground and head over to my next stop, which is Blackfriars. So I will see you there as we go down the line.